especially in sports in Lebanon, man, we didn't have anything in sports. We didn't have any platform for sports, which is crazy. I mean, I wanted this to be my introduction to you, that I've known you for quite some time, and I've never seen you do an interview.
Yeah.
And do you know why?
I think it's in my opinion, I think it's many different things. There is the fact that I speak English.
Mm-hmm, that's true.
There is the fact that I also look different.
I don't think so. You think you look different?
I mean, like, also I'm half black, you know. Like,
so what?
I'm just saying this. Maybe I look different. I don't speak the same. Like, I won't speak Arabic on the platform.
I do agree on the language barrier.
Yeah.
But I don't agree on you being half black. I mean,
Yeah.
you see a lot of Americans also do interviews, like foreign players doing interviews.
Really?
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be a podcast, but I mean, at least you do interviews like. I don't know if on MTV nowadays we see a lot. On MTV, I think it's a language barrier. They don't want, because I know it from my channel. Whenever I had Cliff, for example, Cliff Alexander,
Absolutely.
I had a lot of English speaking guests,
Yeah.
and the views are always lower because most of the audience, they want episodes in Arabic. So I do understand why the TV won't do an interview.
course.
It's because of the language. That's
Absolutely.
the reason.
Yeah.
But I don't think it's because of how you look.
I wouldn't say that it's because of that, but I would say it's, first of all, the language barrier.
I agree.
And that's who you want to attract as an audience, you know.
That's true. That's
as far
true.
as that, so I think that's the main reason, basically, for the interviews. And then there's also the drop in people not knowing exactly, like, what is this guy about. Like, I've been away, like, I started 3 years ago or 4 years before the revolution.
Mm-hmm.
The revolution happened, and COVID happened, and I got eclipsed. Then I came back, got injured. I played in Saudi and Bahrain, got injured. Then came back last year, tried to play in the playoff time. Did well, but not like as people expected, basically, or like knew me as. So this year, I think, was a good year for me to just, like, put myself back out there, do what I have to do, win some games, and whatever had to, like, whatever opinion people had, like, they're just starting to know me, basically, this year. So I think using a platform as far as interviews and talking, like, opening myself on camera or, like, conversations is a brand new thing for me, like, in Lebanon. I haven't done that before.
Yeah, but I think it's gonna do you wonders. Not because it's this show, but I've met you a couple of times. Obviously, wanted to sign you earlier on.
For sure.
So
100%.
I'm gonna be putting all of these stuff, by the way, on, because I love the talks we're having. It's not an introduction, but we're gonna have an introduction later on. But I've met you a few times, and we wanted to sign you a couple of years ago, and you're a real, genuine guy, and that's what people don't see. Like, when we see you play the game, you are right. I think we always feel that you have so much untapped potential. You're playing great, but we think you can be like a real superstar in this league. But at the same time, in those 2 times, because one time we had lunch together, if I'm not mistaken, and like, we can actually sit down and talk about business, about life, about a lot of things. And this is why I felt it's really nice to have this podcast. So we're going to pause for a second. Karim, welcome to this podcast.
I appreciate you.
We had a 10-minute introduction before.
Right.
So this is why I wanted you to be on this podcast, because I don't know if you knew this, but this episode was supposed to be with Rida. But okay, because I wanted you to be the next episode next week after you played a couple of finals games. But Ghalib went on different platforms for this week, so I didn't want like 3 or 4 interviews with Ghalib for the same week. So I said, let's do it with Karim. I'm glad you're here, because I feel that you should be going live more. You are an addition to this game, not only in the basketball aspect of it, but also in the outside of the field aspect of it. You were saying that English language is a barrier for you. I do agree. It is a barrier for you, because a lot of people either don't know how to interview in English,
right,
or the audience doesn't really like the English, because English for a lot of people is the 3rd language. But this is why I'm really happy for you to be here. And I think I think you have a story to tell, and people need to hear this story. So Welcome, Karim.
I appreciate you, man. If you want, we can speak in French, but maybe you.
I do speak in French. If you want to speak in French, don't worry. I'm gonna put it in subtitles. I'm gonna put subtitles anyway. I think English is better for me, even though French is my second language. But I haven't spoken.
French is your second
language. But I haven't spoken French since high school. You know. So yeah, English is okay. I think English is better because of the subtitles on YouTube.
Right.
It's automatic subtitles.
No, I prefer English anyways.
Karim, man, I was telling you
again. Nice to start this conversation. To be honest, I'm very honored to be honest to start to be here. I think for a first conversation live, it's a great platform that you have, like what you're doing and how you use your freedom of speech and opinions. On both levels, from the outside perspective and the inside perspective, and you also being a coach for one of the top teams, obviously, maybe the most famous team in Lebanon. So it's a great thing that you're doing, and we appreciate you. To be honest, that's why I'm here today.
Thank you, Karim. Karim, take us a little bit back, because earlier you were telling me about you think that your appearance, you being half black or half African American, if you want to say. By the way, I don't know if you know, but in a lot of cultures, in a lot of society, and this is a nice message to tell to people. I used to live in London, and in London, for example, you couldn't say the N-word.
Yeah.
Okay. But one time, Luis Suarez, you know Luis Suarez, he's the football player. So when he was playing for Liverpool, he said it to Patrice Evra in Manchester United, and he got suspended. And the thing is, for South Americans, if you say that word, it's actually this is their culture. It's not something wrong. So in different cultures, you can actually say different things. So in some cultures, you can actually say half black. In some cultures, you can actually what we like to say is half African American. But we're gonna use it anyway here in this conversation. So you were saying that you think because of your appearance, that's why you're not much on TV.
I would say that it's not necessarily like that's not the primary thing, but I wouldn't say that it's because of that, but I would say there is way less of that. So it's less of a thing that we're accustomed to in Lebanon, especially to see different faces, different cultures on TV or on platforms that are listened to. You know, you would. We could agree, we could argue about it, but I haven't seen much of it. Like it could be as far as singers, athletes, any type of famous people. We don't have much diversity in the people that are having conversations.
I do
online.
agree, but it's also because in Lebanon you don't have many African American people. Like if you have a population of 5-6 million, how much like percentage wise do you think we have African Americans? For me personally, I know one guy who's a singer, Wael Mansour. I don't know if you know him.
Of course.
He used to play basketball. He's Lebanese. I think he was an orphan, and I'm not pretty sure about it, but I think he was an orphan and he was adopted by a family. But other than that, you being half African American as well, I don't think we have many African Americans who are purely Lebanese, and this is why also once the ratio is way lower, then you have a smaller sample size to pick artists and reporters and stuff.
Absolutely, but I just think it's something that we're not accustomed to.
That's true. And
breaking barriers is completely. I don't think it's something we're against. Of course, I think there is like my dad. He's Lebanese. He married an African woman from Congo. My mom.
Okay.
So it's basically. I don't think like Lebanese people are all over the place, and especially in Africa. So I don't think it's something we're against, but I just think it's something we're not accustomed to.
I agree. I also think, now I remembered, we have a reporter who's on, if I'm not mistaken, it's on Al Jadid, who's also African American. She's purely Lebanese, but she's African American also. And sadly, I'm remembering something that she once had like an opinion about politics. She was criticizing a politician, and obviously, you know, Lebanon being Lebanon, people sometimes are so brainwashed that you cannot talk anything about that political leader. And on Twitter, they started putting her picture and start saying some racist stuff. So while I agree, a lot of people don't have this hate towards African American, I think we also need a lot of education about racism.
Absolutely.
I see sometimes at pools, I don't see at the pools, but sometimes I hear that, for example, a helper who's African American coming from another country cannot get into a pool with the kids if she's a helper, and it's crazy. I mean, some of these helpers, they're coming from countries who are more advanced than Lebanon.
Now, to be honest, it's a very fragile subject in the world, but in Lebanon, it's almost like unawareness. You know, it's we love when Lebanese are outside of Lebanon. We're super open. Like even in Africa, you see my dad speaks Lingala, which is the language in Congo. Like you see a lot of people who like adapt. We are big adapters in the world, but when it comes to our home, like Lebanon, you are very particular about who's gonna get inside, and you feel more sensitive about who's coming in. Like even if someone comes out, like even a Lebanese person coming from outside is seen as a foreigner. You know,
that's
like
true.
Even a Frenchie, that's a Lebanese French person that's gonna come back, they're gonna see him as a French person, but he's Lebanese, completely Lebanese. But
I agree.
Yeah, it's more about, I think, territorial, feeling super homey in Lebanon and having this lack of diversity and being used to like the same like communities. You know, we're very community centered, like the Muslim, the Christian, the religions, the colors. Like it's a lot about community in Lebanon. So
That's so true, man. That's so true. You just opened up my eyes on something, because last week I met, 2 weeks ago actually, I met this woman who's Syrian, beautiful lady, amazing. She's educated, perfect, great career. She's amazing on all fronts, but she's Syrian. And she was telling me the same thing. She was telling me, everywhere I go, I kind of feel like I don't belong because people don't make me feel that I belong. Even though she's been here for plenty of years,
Right.
for more than a decade, but she still feels that, even though she feels that this is more of a home than Syria, she always says that some people don't make me feel at home.
Right.
So yeah, I think I agree with this. And this is, I think, in our culture, even Lebanese between each other, like Muslims and Christians, they don't feel like they belong in the same country sometimes.
Right.
So I can imagine what they would feel about African Americans, and this is why we need more awareness about this.
Yeah, and like the position I'm in is like I also live in the downtown area, Beirut.
Okay.
You know, so like you're in Jamaica, you're in the Frenchy place. You're across
true.
the road,
Yeah.
you're in the Muslim place. They don't interact with each other. It's like two other worlds.
But these are the pros and cons of it. It's really nice because you see a lot of diversity. Like I used to live in London, and in London, in the same street, you would actually have a Chinatown, and then you would have like an Indian place, and then you would have a Lebanese place, which is great. But I think there, the awareness about this kind of diversity,
100%.
You can have a mayor who's Muslim or Christian. Here in Lebanon, every city has its own religion, its own group of political party or whatever. So I think the newer generation, us, for example, because I could care less if you are Muslim or Christian. If you're a nice guy to me, you're a nice guy to me. You're a good person to me.
Exactly.
I would care less if I'm dating someone who's a Christian or a Muslim. If she's good to me, she's good to me. So I think the newer generation
absolutely
is gonna make a change, and this is why I'm positive about the political side of this country, because the more I see of this new generation, the more I see that the way older people used to think is starting to be removed.
100%. And it's gonna be a big game changer in Lebanon because of how community centered it is. But you have people who, like the newer generation, as you say, like me, for example, I'm like an alien for this. Like I'm half Congolese, half Lebanese, who grew up in France, who went to America for basketball. Like I'm very Lebanese to my core, which I'm adapter. You see, like I didn't know I was that Lebanese until I came to Lebanon and learned about seeing the people. I was like, okay, this is where I'm, like, this is who I am. You know, like I'm also an adapter. Like I just went around the world playing basketball, you know, like, and adapted very quickly. And everybody would ask me, like, even when I speak English, like, you don't necessarily have an accent. You don't, like, you know, like, we adapt so fast, man. It's mind blowing, to be honest.
Yeah, and Lebanon makes it easier also to adapt because it's a beautiful place.
Right.
I know maybe we said some negative things about our culture, about our society. It's because of the lack of awareness. It's not because of hatred. But I believe Lebanon is such a beautiful place. Last week I was sitting with Omar, your assistant coach at Dynamo, and I told him, how does someone come back to Lebanon after all the financial crisis, the bombing of Beirut and all these kind of stuff? People actually wanted to leave Lebanon, and you actually made the risk and brought your family back. And he said something that I agreed to. Lebanon is such a beautiful place.
All right.
I've been all over the world, and I don't think there's any place like Lebanon.
Absolutely.
So I do agree that it's easier for you to adapt. Karim, I want you to take me back a little bit to your younger days. I mean, you're still very young as well also, but to when you were a kid. You told me now that your dad is actually Lebanese and your mom is African, right?
Yeah,
From
so
Congo.
my dad is from Jnoub,
Okay.
the south. He grew up here until about 15, 16 years old, then went to the States with his dad. So he grew up in LA after 16 years old, I guess. Wasn't in diamond business. Diamond business back in the day in Africa, it's very, there's a lot of rebellious acts in Africa. Everybody's trying to take territories. So like, it was something that was very dangerous, so he lost a lot of things and, went from having a lot of money to no money directly, and then happened that he had kids. So he had kids before meeting my mom. So having kids changed his life, going to France, trying to raise kids in an environment that's not Lebanese because, the war and all the things that happened. Trying to give an education to his kids. So then he met my mom. Basically, I was born in Congo.
So he met your mom in France?
In Congo.
Oh, in Congo. Okay,
he was already doing
okay.
diamonds in Congo. So met my mom in Congo. I was born there. Moved to France for better opportunity. There was also wars in Congo. So as you see, like in Congo, there was wars. In Lebanon, there was wars. So they were trying to find a place that has a, stability. So I grew up in France. Started basketball at about 11 years old. It was just I just picked up a ball. My brother was playing ball. He was in the hip hop culture, So he told me, man, you're tall. I was playing soccer, so you're tall. You can run. You move like a guard. You could actually play basketball and make like a great career. And I was like, no way. And then I went on a playground one day and I just started killing dudes out of nowhere. And then from there, I just took it to a whole nother level. Then from that point, I really understood that I had something like a huge feeling in basketball. So I took a chance to Nanterre. I don't know if you know Nanterre. It's one of the biggest clubs in France. The coach saw me. He told me, like, look, you have a great potential. You could do this. So I started there, did a year, 2 years, then went to the Centre de Formation. I don't know how you say that.
Okay, Formation Center.
Formation Center in France of Orléans. Back then I was a wild kid, so I didn't I was really good. I was in the under 18 team when I was 15, but I was really I had a big head, I started thinking, ego. I started thinking I was better than I was. I started thinking, because I was hanging out with pros, the clubs and all of this at 15 years old. I thought I was a pro. I was already living this pro lifestyle, but this wasn't really it. So I was good at basketball, so I was really feeling almost like there was no challenge, and the ego took over. So one day I just decided to take a video of me and send it to the top 10 teams in the States, the 10 high schools in the States, and I sent it to them by email, and they all got back to me saying, look, this is really you, this is really your height, this is you on the video, we're sending you your flights, you can join from next week, and we're gonna fly you out, everything. So I was like, okay, so I took a chance. And once I got there in the States, this really where the slap hit me. It was like playing with kids your age at school, you really have to go to school to play basketball because it's the program, how it's set up. So it was really like a huge slap for me as going from this lifestyle of clubs, hanging out with pros and all of this to like going to high school with kids that are 14, 13, 15, 16 and being surrounded by that and having also the discipline of basketball and then having basketball players my age or younger or older that are super extremely talented, the best in the country, and not feel entitled, you know? So I had to really look at myself, and that was really a huge year, the first year for me to adapt. And then I kept going from high school to college all the way. You know, the grading scales is different from if you go to from Europe or the Lebanon or whatever to the States. It's different kind of systems of grading scale. So I had to make up some credits in school in order to qualify to play Division I NCAA. So I had to go to junior college. Went through junior college, did it 2 years. I was in the number one junior college. We finished number two though. We lost in the finals both years. Then I had offers to play in Division I, signed with UConn, University of Connecticut. Coach got fired a week after I signed.
After you signed, so you actually signed. Okay.
Yeah, I signed,
Yeah, okay.
did everything, letter of intent, everything. A week later, the coach got fired, Coach Ali. He was the coach with Kemba Walker and all of that. He got fired the next week, so I had to make a second choice, which was going to University of New Mexico. So went to University of New Mexico. Everything is great. We top 25 in the country in Division I. Then the year goes on, and then I have an agent talking to me, Jad Mbarak. He's like, hey, listen, are you Lebanese? I see your name is Ezzeddine. And I'm like, yeah, like, what's up? And he's like, man, look.
You knew that you were Lebanese. Yeah, like you knew that you had your papers and everything.
No, so I was Lebanese.
Okay.
My dad is Lebanese,
Okay.
but I still didn't have
Your official
my
papers and
official
stuff.
papers
Okay.
and everything. So that was about 6 years ago, 5 years ago. Talk to him and be like, listen, I don't know what you're looking for, but I'm never gonna play in Lebanon. Like, I'm here in Division I basketball. Like, I'm gonna do my second year. He was like, look, man, you can actually make decent money. Like, I can already set you up with some teams, and I know I can get you there to the biggest level. I was like, look, I'm looking to go to the league, and this is not my path. And then one day, something went wrong in my team. The coach started implementing. We lost the rivalry against New Mexico State, and my coach started to change the whole system of playing. Basically, the 4 and the 5s couldn't shoot threes, which I'm very comfortable playing as more like a guard than a big man. Pressure all game. Anyways, he changed a lot of things about our games, and that wasn't fitting me at all. So I was like, look, I gave Jad Mbarak a call. I was like, look, let me know what's the deal. I'm ready to make some money. Well, you know, I want to provide for my family as well. Like, this college thing, it might not be it for me right now. Maybe set a year contract, or if it's a 2-3 years contract with a clause that I can still go to bigger teams or in the NBA or China or whatever. And he said, okay. So he said that he talked to some teams. Chanville was the first one to really make the move, signed me a 3-year contract, and the rest was history. But 2 months later, the revolution happened.
Yeah.
So that was really my introduction to Lebanon, man. Feeling as if taking things for granted, which was the 3-year contract, was a nice contract. Coming here, seeing the level and be like, okay, I can actually perform here. I can actually prove myself here, make some more money, provide for my family. We don't need to work as hard as in the States, which you have about 1 practice a day. In the States, you have about 3, you know. So it was like almost like a dream come true. Like, I can make some money, work, and also have my free time to do whatever I want. And take things for granted. And then a revolution happened, a huge slap, learned the Lebanon the hard way. Then COVID happened, trying to come back, which was the world shook. And then after that, got injured with my shoulder for a year. So I had surgery on my shoulder. So it's been really like the last 4 years until now, you know. So this year has been my real full season.
Karim, do you regret anything during that time when you were a kid? Because you were telling me a lot of times you felt that you were more entitled to stuff and that you were like, you had a big ego. Do you regret anything you did from when you were a kid up to that decision of leaving New Mexico to come to Lebanon?
Do I regret anything?
Yeah.
Not at all. Do I think I would have been somewhere else if I did things different? Absolutely. But I don't think I regret anything. I think I built a man before I built a career. And that was really my, the biggest, like you can't take that away from a man. You can't take a career away. You can take basketball. You can take money away. But like I feel like the lessons that I've learned by the mistakes that I've made without the proper guidance was the best teacher for me. And basketball has always remained loyal to me and always gave me the opportunity to bounce back. And I've always stayed loyal to basketball, so I always put in the work in order to, like, even if things didn't happen my way, I always put in the work in order to get back to where I think I can be. So, yeah.
When you say proper guidance, I would love to know, where was your family in all of this, in your decision making, especially at this young age? Like when you were a kid, you don't really know if you should be moving to the States, if you should be staying in France, what you should be doing, and all these kind of stuff. So when you talk about guidance, tell me a little bit more about that kind of guidance that you needed.
To be honest, my parents don't have a background in sports, so they don't know much about sports. My dad is a businessman, but the old traditional way of doing business, which is like negotiating left and right. Even when I went to high school, he was trying to negotiate some kind of stuff, you know.
And he's Lebanese also.
Typical Lebanese, man. From the south.
Like, for example, I'm kind of like imagining something that the coach is talking to him and he's saying, okay, the school is for free and everything. Okay, but we need the domes for free also. Like, okay, the domes is free. Okay, we need the food also for free.
We need some money, you know.
Typical Lebanese guy.
Let's not talk about it because that's illegal. You know? Okay, so my parents, to be honest, my dad has always been behind me, whatever I did. We're like trying to understand even what I was going through, trying to push me to the fullest of my potential. Not necessarily always in a great way, which was always trying to make me the best. So if you're a Lebanese dad, you always want your kid to be the king of everywhere that you go. That's my dad. Want me to be the king everywhere that I go. I'm like, Dad, like, relax. Like, everything has its steps, you know. So, proper guidance, I would say, you're not allowed to have an agent. Also, in high school, in the NCAA, if not, you're considered not an amateur but a professional, which you won't be qualified to play NCAA. So, I didn't have really someone in my corner that was knowing the ins and outs, and I had a lot of advices, but also like as a kid you listen to them, but you're like, it's okay, I can do it, I can do whatever I want. Also, like, they don't know because they never had a Michael Jordan. Like, that's the mentality you go with, like, I'm different. You always think that I'm different, so I'm gonna make things differently. So in that mentality, you always fall for the same things that the same people who thought the same way as you before you was falling for. So I felt for these things, which was the lifestyle, you know, not being aware of some situations that were happening that I would have had if I had the guidance, you know. Even decision making, as far as choosing a school, choosing. Which I see in the young guys like Youssef Khayat, like, he has a great guidance around him that's been that's advising him, or the whole country is behind him, you know. Like in France also, the difference is that basketball is super extremely talented, but it's not as famous, so it's not as like soccer. You would have a different kind of guidance, different kind of professionalism around you from 13, 12 years old.
Not only that, sorry, I'm interrupting you,
course.
but not only that, I think also because in France, you're 1 in a million kid who's gonna go to the
Exactly.
States. In Lebanon, Youssef Khayat is the only player
Exactly.
who's ever gonna go, at least now, to the States to
Yeah.
play in this big school.
Yeah,
So he's treated differently because he's the star boy of the country in a way,
Absolutely.
in the basketball
Of course.
community. Like he's the golden child of basketball
Exactly.
here. While Karim Ezzeddine in France,
Yeah.
I mean, you weren't French in a way. That's one, and two, there's a million of kids who are gonna go to the States to play there. So this is also a difference as well.
And that's the funny thing also in France, when a kid goes to the States, there is almost a hate, like, because he's not gonna be formated in France.
in France.
So the national team of France is not gonna put more emphasis on this kid because he's been formated in the States. So they want to actually promote the programs that are in France. So when I went to the national team as a under 16 in France, killed guys in practice, did a great. I thought I was great and everything, but they talked and were like, okay, but he's playing in the States, which he wasn't formatted. And that's been like that for also my friends who like Sylvain Francisco now plays for the main national team of France, the senior national team. He was underrated and not taken in all of these teams. It can be professional or national teams because he was in the States. So it's like in Lebanon, you actually like Youssef Khayat going to the States for Division 1 is a pride, like it's a national pride.
Yeah, exactly.
It's different, and I also think it's because of the identity that you have as a Lebanese compared to like a French kid, like I grew up in France, but my dad is Lebanese, my mom is from Congo, so it's also a different thing.
When I ask you about if you regret anything, because knowing how you think, I think that when you came to Lebanon and the revolution hit, you never thought that it was better for you to stay in the States, not because of basketball, but because of education. Because I know how much of I don't want to say an entrepreneur mind you have, but you have a business mindset as well. So I believe that Karim Ezzeddine with the proper education would be different than the Karim Ezzeddine that's sitting with us now.
I think the thing is, without proper guidance, when you go to NCAA Division 1, you sign for basketball without proper guidance. So like my dad always pushed me to be an intellect, like a lawyer or whatever, like something big with my brain, But I thought, like this is not gonna be for long. Like I'm gonna do 1-2 years and move on to my professional stages, and that's me being naive and underestimating the value of what I had as an education, free education, things that people are in debt in the States forever, like for college loans.
And in a top university.
Right, in a top university. And I don't regret it either. Like I think it gave me sense of education and learning and consuming knowledge. Like when the revolution happened, COVID happened, the explosion happened, and my injury happened all at the same time within the past 4 years, I really had to like think, okay, like my contract went out the window, now what? Like now I have to rely on either my physical capabilities to play over like in another country, which I played in Bahrain, Saudi as a foreigner, and I also performed there, but it's still not what I envisioned to be. It's still not, so I have to use my brain now to do something on the side. So I really had to look at myself and be like, okay, I'm gonna learn something. So I was really passionate about technology and blockchains, and in that time NFTs didn't come out yet, but I really started to learn things that are outside of basketball, and I really put myself, when the year I was injured, in a complete lockdown and consume knowledge and learn to appreciate learning on my own. So if I had this ease of like staying where I'm at, free education, you can do just exams and everything like that. It wasn't that hard I didn't have any challenge to do something that I wanted to do. It wasn't mine. It was just given. So when I had something that was mine, it's when I really make things happen and learn things and really shape my life around that.
When you said now that when you went abroad to play in the Saudi and in Bahrain, this is not what you envisioned to be.
Absolutely not.
What do you envision to be?
To be honest, making a change, impacting on a global scale. It's like when you think about the Lebanese diaspora, it's all over. Like when we played last year in the Asian Championship, I had people from Australia talking to me. Be like, you are our pride. People from Africa, like family, you made us proud. Like people from the States, like, all over the place.
Yeah.
And it's like you impact people on a global scale and you give hope. So what is happening with the Lebanese national team is something that I never even, it's something that I dreamed of, but I didn't know it was gonna happen in this way. Like I thought, like I was
this big of an impact.
Yeah. And it's even bigger because it's not only about me. Like it's not Karim Ezzeddine that's impacting the whole world. It's a whole team, which is basketball, what it's about. And it's like you are bigger than what you are, and you can impact people on like kids or people that lost hope, and even people that are difference makers. Like let's say the Lebanese national team performs, the hockey team wins. It's the butterfly effect,
That's
like
true.
it's how you see things. And what I love about being able to do that is that it's also a business. At the end of the day, if you impact people, you make a difference in their lives. They look at you in a different way. They want to know what you're doing. If I do an academy, if I do a brand, if I use my image, it's also impacting them, and it's also making me a better person because I'm doing my business on the side as well. So it's taking all aspects. I would say it's my ikigai. I don't know if you know about ikigai. It's a Japanese term for like what society needs from you, what you need from yourself, and what you're meant to be, like what drives you. So all three of these areas in my life are taken care of because society needs that. I'm passionate with basketball, and this is what drives me, like this is what makes me today. So I feel like that impact is bigger than anything. Like I could play in France in basketball as a local, but it's not like you just play basketball and that's it. You work hard, you make some money, that's about it. There's no bigger than life purpose there. So I would say the bigger than life purpose is in Lebanon gives me the sense of, okay, I play for something bigger than me.
I love what you're saying, man. I love what you're saying. We need to move to something that I need to say. Jad Khalil is the guy who told me to get you on. He was on me like he was get Karim Ezzeddine.
Yeah.
He has a nice message to say. Now I can understand why he used to tell me this. How old are you, by the way?
25. So
25. You're way more mature than 25 years old. I love what you're saying. I'm gonna ask you about the Japanese thing later on because I want to research that.
Absolutely.
It sounds interesting. But yeah, I love what you're saying. I hope you keep on thinking the same way, because also just like you were saying these nice stuff, sometimes society changes your priorities in life.
Absolutely.
At 25, I remember at 25, I used to have different priorities, and then the older I got, my priorities changed. So I hope that your priorities won't change, or at least they stay on track to do a difference, because we were talking earlier, me and you, I think we need young leaders in this country who can influence, and this is where I think we have to make a difference.
Absolutely.
And from the way you're talking, I think we can make improvement in that area.
Absolutely.
Karim, I want to talk a little bit about your experience in Bahrain and Saudi, because you played as a foreigner there, but it was in your early career outside of the States, obviously. How do you see the league there, and what are the major differences that you notice between these countries and the league here?
I would say, first of all, the passion, like the impact fans have on the game.
Here?
Yeah.
Okay.
Compared to those places.
Okay.
The impact the culture about basketball has on the people that plays basketball or the game itself or the business of of basketball itself. So like let's say in Bahrain and Saudi, when I played, it was during COVID also, so like people, there was no fans and there was no, but it's a small island. Bahrain is a very small island. You can do it everything within 45 minutes max. I would say that the difference is how people give their lives to something because it means something bigger. So in basketball culture, the culture of basketball here or in the States, something that you grow up with. You grew up watching Sajas, watching Riyadi, watching the national team beating France in 2006. You grew up watching meaningful moments that have taken place with basketball in your life. So you grow up, the fan base, everything makes the game a whole universe. But in those places, you don't feel as basketball is a whole universe. You feel like it's one thing. It's like, okay, this sheikh came and wanting to put some chessboard there, put some money in it, bring the best foreigner he can just to say, I'll bring this guy here and play the game, you know.
It's just a game. It's just a game.
I'm not criticizing the leagues, of course, but I'm just saying that it's not as a whole universe as it is in the States or here or other places. And because I feel like it's from broken dreams as kids. You don't have a model or figure that has, like in Bahrain or Saudi, that has made it to the NBA or that has made it big. You don't have a hero that's gonna be like, okay, I'm a kid, I wanna be like him. You don't have that there. So in Lebanon, you have heroes. You have Ronnie Saeli, you have Fadil Khatib, you have Elie Mshantaf. You have a lot of players who have impacted the game on a global scale, who they went to China or in the States or in Lebanon playing for Sajas on the Asian level that you see like, okay, I want to be like this guy. But there you don't have that. So like the game is completely different from that point on. Because as a kid, you don't have this dream. And as a fan, you don't look on a global scale. So I feel like that's the biggest difference.
Yeah, role models are very important. And I think this is why Saudi Arabia now, with bringing Ronaldo there and now talking to Messi, and I think they're going to bid for the next World Cup. I think it's in the 2030s or something like this. So the way they're going, I think this is what they're targeting. They want to have these role models to look at and say, okay, I want to be like this guy. And you are absolutely right. How many times have we seen people or kids say, this is the next Fadil Khatib, this is the next Wael Araji, or actually people, and I don't think people understand how much of an influence this has, and especially now with social media. Like I see, for example, sometimes Wael Araji posting pics at 11 or 12 at night, for example, and you cannot understand how much this is important, because kids somewhere, that 10-year-old kid, he's looking, okay, if Wael Araji, who's MVP of Asia, who's made it to the league, who's making money, famous, is still working this hard, then I need to work even harder, no matter the craft. It doesn't have to be about basketball. Even if I'm a lawyer or a doctor or whatever, I need to be working this hard also, because I always need to get better. And this is why role models are very important in life.
Absolutely. And I feel also the pathways of success is also broken. Because, okay, role model is an idea of success. And there are also situations that are idea of success, like let's say a kid from Bahrain going to the States for the NBA, or there hasn't been a proper pathways within the Middle East and the States or Europe. So if you're Youssef Khayat today, he's played in France. He probably had great guidance that took him there. If you're not Youssef Khayat, if you're just a kid who wants to dream of going to the States, where do you go? You don't go to an academy, you don't go to a program, you don't go to a school, you don't go to that are able to do that. You have to know someone. Either your dad is very connected, or you just dream about playing in Bahrain. You know, like it's either or. So like I feel like having the pathways or like having entities or institutions or academies that are connected on the global level is something that we miss in the Middle East because we don't believe in kids' potentials, and we don't have proper structure within the governments or whatever that builds these pathways. So like, if I'm in France, if I want to play, there's a whole pathway for me to play from kid to professional, and if I don't do that, there's other pathways for me to go to the States within, like you have academies or things you can sign up for. In Lebanon or in the Middle East, there is none of this. So like a kid's not gonna dream very far. There's nobody who's done it before him, and there is no structure. Either his dad has to be very passionate about it and understand the whole thing, or that's it.
Yeah, you're talking before Yusuf Khayyat in Lebanon, because after Yusuf Khayyat, now kids can dream and can say, okay, if Yusuf Khayyat made it, now I can make it as well. So you're absolutely right about this idea also.
But sorry to cut you off, but it's still how? Like, because a kid knowing Yusuf Khayyat went to the States is still gonna wanna know, like, okay, his dad won't gonna wanna know, how did he do it?
But I think nowadays it's way easier. I think this episode, you saying that you just put a video and you send it by email, this is a great message for kids.
Absolutely.
That if you're good, you're gonna get far.
Exactly.
If you're good, there's no excuse that, okay, you don't have the proper connections, because if you're good, you can just literally open up YouTube and put a video on YouTube and send the link to 100 coaches. You can just go on Twitter or whatever, just send emails to everyone, or just put it on YouTube and it's gonna go viral on Instagram, on social media.
Yeah,
so nowadays it's way easier than before. Like back in the days, you need to like have a VHS tape and send it by FedEx, and it needs like 2 months to get there. Now everything is way easier, and this is how, if you think about music, for example, Justin Bieber, who's one of the top artists in the world, he got noticed on YouTube, and now it's way easier for sports as well. And this is the good side of social media and the internet age.
And I want to give a message as to kids that if anyone could, like, listen to like where we are as a platform, it's. We started with an iPad, literally an iPad that could not take more than a minute, 2 minute videos back then. Like, it's a big iPad this big, and my friend just said, look, I will record you playing pickup game. It's not necessarily a professional game. I'll record you playing pickup game. He recorded me playing pickup game, but he said, look, we have to send these to the States. And I was like, all right, let's do it, man. We looked for all the top 10 teams, high school, and we sent them. We went through the day after, and the next week I was gone.
Yeah, it's crazy. I was telling you this earlier before we went live. I mean, when we first started the show, it's almost the same thing. When we first started the show, I just decided to buy 2 microphones, and it used to be like a Samsung phone where it was. I didn't even have 3 cameras. I think I had only 2 cameras, and we put them like on tripods, on cheap tripods, and I said, let's just do it. If the content is good,
absolutely,
we can worry about the quality of the image, the quality of the background of the studio, everything else later on. It's the same thing for basketball players, young kids. If the content is good, if you're a good player, don't worry about anything else. You're gonna get far. Just do what you have to do. Work hard. Get yourself noticed, and you're gonna go far also.
Absolutely.
Karim, you were saying earlier that in 2006, because I forgot that in 2006, I don't know, were you in France back then when we won against the national team in the World Cup?
I think I was about 9 years old.
Okay.
But I'm not sure where I was at that time. I don't think I even understood
the magnitude of it.
Yeah, even me being Lebanese.
That's why I wanted to know. It's a shame that you were very young back then.
I don't think I was even aware that I knew I was Lebanese, Congolese, but I didn't know, like, okay, I didn't even know what Lebanon looked like. You know, like, it's a shame that my dad had to make this decision to better myself because of the situation of Lebanon. You know, like having the wars, him growing up, and didn't want me to be have any links with Lebanon because of
But
that.
maybe that shaped you also, Karim,
Absolutely.
to the guy that you are today. Maybe if things were different, you would actually be in a different place now. So just like you said, you don't regret anything you did back in school or high school or even in New Mexico. Maybe this also shaped you up into the guy you are in now. So
I agree.
I wouldn't say it's a shame. It's just how, if you believe in God, this is the path that God drew
Absolutely.
you.
And today, like, I feel with the, sorry to jump on another subject, but what we're doing with the national team and how impactful the hope message and the actions we're taking, let's say with Karim Ibrahim and Robocom, what they're doing into investing in the national team and the message, how it will be delivered with documentaries and stuff like that, it will be much on a global scale and have a much more impact that we ever dreamed of, you know.
And
So,
this is why we need young people in this game,
Exactly.
man. This is what I always say. We need young people. We need young female also, because we were talking about diversity. We need young female when it comes to refereeing, to coaching. We need young people, young blood in this game, because I feel we have so much potential in this game, that untapped potential that we need to hit. And it's a shame because we have such a good national team.
100%.
And I believe we can go very far with this young group of people. The core of it is very young, and we can go very far, not only in wins and losses. It's not only about wins and losses. You're saying we have a great message. I want you to talk more about this nice message. But before I give you the chance to do that, I think that we as people as well, sometimes I'm talking about myself, sometimes I criticize the federation because I want what's best for the game. And yes, sometimes they do some good stuff. I was saying you this earlier on. Sometimes they do bad stuff. And when they do bad stuff, I put light on it. And I think this is my job as someone who's, I don't want to say who only loves the game, but I don't know how to explain it, but basketball for me is everything in a way. So when we criticize, it's not because basketball isn't good. Basketball is everything in this country, maybe. But there's so much untapped potential. And this is why we always say the stuff that we say, or at least I say the stuff that I say. Because if you're at 8 over 10, okay, maybe you can be a 9 over 10. Maybe you can be a 10 over 10. It's the same thing for a basketball player. You're a good player. You make money. You're famous. You don't go and sleep and say, okay, I'm not going to practice anymore. No, you need to practice because maybe your shot can be better. Maybe your left hand can be better. I'm sorry, I'm giving out the scouting report now on you. But it's the same thing in businesses. It's the same thing when you're a decision maker in sports also, because we can be better in the sports. And especially when you take a look at the players. I think the players in this game are way ahead of the curve when you compare them to coaching, when you compare them to management, when you compare them to how the league is being ran, to the business side of things. And once all these four, the other stuff as well, the marketing side, everything else, comes in line with the level of players that we have, I think this league is gonna be one of the best in the world.
Of course. And I believe so too. Like, look at Israel, man, what they're doing with, like, their teams. It's not to compare anything, but it's on a way. They have more foreigners. We can argue a lot of things, but it's the same. Like, government is not better in Israel than it is here. So it's also like how we, as a federation, how we treat basketball for sure. There is a big change also trying to happen, like having 3 foreigners on the team or 2. There's a big argument about that. Where do you stand on it?
Oh, okay, where I stand on it. I'm going to be very honest, even though I didn't want to talk about these decisions in this podcast. I believe, and I don't know if you watch many episodes because most of them are in Arabic, but I've always said this league cannot have 12 teams, okay? This league should be, if I was federation member or federation president, I would do 8 teams. I would play them 2 times round robin. So 7 games, then 7 games, 7 games. 28 games in total, and then I go playoffs. 1 against 8, 2 against 7, 3 against 6, etc. And then I go 7-game series in the final 4, 7-game series in the finals. then you would have around 35 to 40 games each team that are super high level, because once you put 8 teams instead of 12, those last 4 teams, the Lebanese players are going to be divided into these 8, and now you have 8 very good teams competing.
And that's nice because also now you add to that like Wassel, 2
Exactly.
teams with Wassel.
Exactly.
Then you add like maybe another league, the Super League or whatever they call it.
And then you have also, you can play the Lebanese Cup in the middle of it and as well. So there's a lot of room to grow in this. So if we have 8 teams, I would actually stay on 2 foreigners. I would change the list A, that's for sure. 5 players in list A, 22 players in total is rubbish, I think. You don't need that. So I would change the rules about the list A. I would keep it 2 foreigners. I would make it 8 teams. But, and that's a big but, why are we staying for 12 teams? People who watch the podcast, they know. I'm not going to criticize, but they know, because of politics. So 12 teams, you don't have 120 good Lebanese players to be on those teams, or at least 100 Lebanese players, because it's 10 players per team with 2 foreigners. So now, the addition of a 3rd foreigner is essential for those last few teams to be competitive, because you can get an American player for $1.5 or $2,000 per month, and he can drop you 20 points. You cannot do that with a Lebanese player. So in that regard, I would say they have to go for a 3rd foreigner. But is it good for basketball? It's good if you have 12 teams, but what's best for basketball is having 8 teams. But we go back to the main subject that not everyone is doing what's best for basketball. Some people, they have their own agendas, sadly. And I don't know. That's my opinion about it.
I agree. I stand with what you're saying. To be honest, it's well put out. I think it's a matter of balancing, like 12 teams, more foreigners. I think it's the right message.
I think it's a done deal, by the way. I don't know if people. I think they're not saying it because for different reasons, but the way I see some teams like Homenman, for example, doing their signings, they signed Walter Hodge and Clay Anthony early, so without having an American or Lebanese big. So they either going for Karim Ezzeddine and Ali Haidar at the 4 and the 5, or they know something that we don't, which is that is going to be 3 foreigners. So I think it's going to be 3 foreigners. It's definitely 3 foreigners. I think the only decision that needs to be made is it going to be 3 foreigners on the court, or is it going to be 2 plus 1? So we'll see, but it's definitely going to be a 3 foreigner league. We'll see, man. It's crazy because if you think about it also, this year, probably probably one of the successful points of this federation was that all the national teams went to the World Cup.
Yeah.
Two young national teams and the senior national team. And it's mainly because all the Lebanese players were getting bigger roles during the COVID year, where it was 0 foreigners, and last year where it was 1 foreigner in the Final 4. And now, what do you do next? You put 3 foreigners. 3 foreigners. That's crazy.
It's pretty crazy, to be honest, but who knows, man? Who knows, like, what's gonna happen? And to be honest, I'm ready for whatever, but we can absolutely do better, like, as far as managing this thing.
Yeah, I think so too. Karim, take me back to the Chanville year. You went to Chanville, obviously from New Mexico. You signed a 3-year deal, and then COVID hits, and then you come back to Chanville.
Revolution first.
Revolution, then COVID hits. But during that time, before your injury, I think you had a great relationship with Brahim Nassa, right? And then I felt that at the end of that Chanville career, there was something that's broken between you guys.
To be honest, this is a touchy subject.
Okay.
Because there is confusion on what happened there between internally. But I would say that when I got injured, there was a need for me to come back earlier than I could.
Okay.
After surgery. And that was, there was a big confusion on the communication of my situation. And I couldn't come back before, obviously, giving time to heal for my surgery. But then the thing is, I don't know who was pushing I don't necessarily know who was behind it, but the relationship between me and Manasa there got really confused about what was happening and who wanted what. But we squashed it out today. Today we're great. We talk about it, and there was still confusion, but we accept that we were confused and that it's not necessarily something to look forward to, but like it's in the past and this is what happened. We got confused and that's it. But there's not more than
Okay, that's
that.
good then.
Yeah.
How hard was it during that time with you being injured? Because you were injured, it was a shoulder injury, obviously, and for a basketball player, that's big. How hard was it for you to live through that experience, and especially because somewhere along the line you were getting paid a lot of money and you were one of the main stars of that team, and you couldn't help that team.
So what's your question again?
How hard was it for you to just live through that experience?
So at first, when I was injured, we didn't diagnose it directly. So I had a ruptured tendon when I was in Saudi, and so I came back in Chanville right after this Saudi experience, and I had a ruptured tendon, so I couldn't lift my left arm, like further than this, you know. So I came back and I still played games. I think if we remember, like if I remember well, like I was shooting even free throws with one hand and stuff like that. But it was really, to me, it's the lack of understanding and the lack of consideration of how professional an athlete is in Lebanon. Because if we avoided that time, I could have came back the year after and performed the whole time. But we lost a whole much more time because we think that, oh, this guy can do it. It's okay. Let me just put some money for him and he's going to do it. It's not how it works. Like an athlete, at the end of the day, is like a car. Like you have to maintain it. You have to think about like the tires. You have to think about everything. You can't run it without gas either. Like you have to maintain it. Like you have to invest as much as you invest. Like that's something that blows me too in the Lebanese league is how much money we invest in players. Let's say even foreigners, and how cheap we are into making sure they're functioning.
It's
true, like investing in a Porsche Cayenne and not thinking to put wheels on. It makes no sense to me. Like we put so much money into a player that if like he has a small like stomach ache can take an athlete out of the game, but like not investing in maybe like the food or like his nutrition or even just like physio, like putting more impact, like importance in physiotherapy, or just like the way they manage athletes is completely misunderstood. Like we don't have a proper understanding of what an athlete is, and there's a lot of people who do well for athletes that we just overlook. Like there's a lot of great trainers, there's a lot of great physios, a lot of great doctors, but we tend to always think business. But business, if the athlete is not running, you're not gonna have a business. You can't just replace him and think the team is gonna be good. Like what you think is like, okay, this car doesn't function, I'm just take it off and I'm just gonna bring another one. And it's not how team works.
And these are the stuff I was talking about earlier, by the way. So I was watching Elishamon's episode last week, and he was talking about how his injury happened and all these kind of stuff. And I believe we still have a lot of room of improvement also when it comes to sports medicine, when it comes to, because trainers, everyone now is good. You have 4 or 5 top level trainers. But when it comes to sports medicines, to physio, to this understanding and this emphasis and putting importance into this part of the game also, because just like you said, sometimes you have a great athlete, but if he's not healthy, he's not healthy.
Just like playing the finals at 9:45 back like a day in like Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, or Sunday. No, and then Monday.
Yeah. The 4 and 5 is back to back.
And you play at 9:45. So you play at 9:45, which you start about 9:45, 10. You finish the game about 11:30. you go home and eat at 12:30. You finish digesting about 1:30.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, you sleep at about 2 a.m., 3 a.m., and then you have to wake up to do like your proper athlete day to stay in rhythm, which is already out of your rhythm. And then you play the next day at super late. And then you do another day you play at 5. And then the other day you play at 9:45. Like it's just misunderstanding of how, like even the NBA does not do that.
Yeah.
Like it's like we're talking about NBA, like the most trained athletes are not even doing that. Like what do you think of like if you put your investment in some athlete and then you're just gonna treat it like that? It's on all aspects of the league. It's not.
You're so right about everything you're saying. Sadly, hopefully it will change soon. Karim, the last subject I want to talk to you about today is Dynamo. So this is your second year in Dynamo, but your first full year. Obviously, it's your first full year in Lebanon because you never played the full season from start to finish. And I feel that now we can comfortably say that you're one of the top players in Lebanon, even though, like I already said earlier, I feel that you have so much untapped potential when it comes to your game. But also, you're one of the many players who you can build, one of the few players you can actually build a team around. I want to talk a little bit about this year in Dynamo. You're now the captain of Dynamo, right?
Yeah.
With Ahmed leaving, so now you're the captain. How was it this year? I know it's been good at times. It's been rough sometimes.
Yeah.
Some drama sometimes. But at the end of the day, you finished the regular season in first position, and you finished Dubai tournament in second position, which was decent considering you lost against Riyadh. And now you're in the finals. This episode is gonna come up on Sunday, but we are Saturday, so you're on the verge of the finals. How was it as a whole season, in your opinion?
So it's been a roller coaster, to be honest. It's been a roller coaster, and there's been a lot of growth happening within the team and everybody, from the management to the coach to the team to the understanding where we're at, and even I would say learning to we weren't expecting this much, like as a whole, this success. I was, because I felt like people underestimated how impactful I could be to the game. But also I also knew who I was going to war with, and that made a lot of difference. So having people like Jad Khalil, who joined us in mid-year, Gab Salibi, who understood his role, and I feel like my friendship helped a lot. Our friendship,
of course,
helped a lot to feel accountability, and other guys around that bought in, like Ali Mahmoud, who came back from after 3 years not playing. Even Ahmed Ibrahim, who bought in at first, regarding knowing his role and accepting what was needed from him, to Coach Jad, the leader of this whole thing, believing in me and knowing what I'm capable of, and also like the untapped potential for within even the next year maybe. And Faisal, who also grew a lot in his managerial position within the year, and he's still growing. There's a lot of downside and a lot of upsides, but that's what makes a big growing team. You know, you can't expect everything to just go. So I would say the roller coaster of managing these whole new dynamics was big, but also like the sky is the limit. You know, like we have an entity that's non-religious affiliated or it's not the traditional way that we're doing things. So it's a new an intruder in the game, and with no fan base, growing fan base of course, with just individuals that are trying to prove themselves and to prove that also a cohesion within a teamwork is everything. So having a leader as Coach Jad to lead this whole thing, and also having me as captain now to like being selfless and promoting that sense of the game is huge.
Especially when when you think about it, it's a 3-year-old club. This is your second year in first division, but it's a 3-year-old club because they started, I think, in second division, then directly to first. Last year they won the cup. Okay, the cup wasn't very. You were there, right? In the cup game. So it wasn't like it wasn't.
Yeah, I know.
It wasn't. They played against second division team, but at the end of the day, it's a Lebanese cup, and now they're in the finals. So it is impressive if you think about everything.
Yeah, 100%, and it's overachievement, but still not even close to what we want to do. So I feel like the finals undergoing against Riyadi is something that we're taking personal as well. We're taking that as a, like, you know, Riyadi is overconfident. Riyadi has the right to be. They're been playing really well, but we're coming for them, you know. So it's not gonna be a walk in Manara, you know. So it's gonna be the Dynamo's way for sure.
How do you think, if you want to beat Riyadi, what do you need to do in order to grab 4 wins, not 1 win, not 2 wins, 4 wins against that team?
Hit first. I think it's
hunt or be hunted.
Yeah.
Kind of model. Okay.
So if we think that Riyadi is coming here to hit us and we're just gonna have the right answer to reply back, it's not gonna happen. Riyadi, if it comes to a 5-on-5 basketball game and just properly ran, Riyadi has a big chance to beat us. But if it comes to energy and heart and belief, I think we can biohack this game. And hitting first is gonna be the huge. Like it's playoff basketball. And any you see the Miami Heat are beating everyone.
Yep.
They're not supposed to. Nobody saw them as, but they have people who are fighters. You know, the main player, the star player is not even. I don't think he's that skilled, but he has 30 points a game, and he's beating the best teams that are the most talented teams. And so I can see like us being the Miami Heat,
the Jimmy Butlers of the world.
For sure.
Yeah, I hope it's gonna be a good final series. I believe Riyadh is a good team,
for sure.
But I hope it's gonna be a good playoff series, especially that the schedule day in day out is not that good. But whatever, man. Karim, 1 hour and a little bit, but it's been amazing episode.
Amazing, for sure.
Loved having you here. Thank you for the quick turnaround. I just talked to you yesterday, and it was quick.
Yeah.
Usually we have Q&As and stuff, but we didn't do that for today. Sorry for not doing Q&As because it's been a rough week for me. We just finished the season 9 months later. I don't know how you're feeling about it as a player, but for me as a coach, it's been mentally exhausting and draining.
Absolutely, man. And it is for me too, but I think it's just a matter of pushing. Like, we didn't come all the way to not finish. You know, like, let's just finish and hopefully we can get to the end victorious.
Good luck, man. Good luck.
Appreciate you,
keep doing you. That's the most important thing. Shout out to Jad Khalil, man.
Exactly.
He was on me to get you
here.
Yeah, he was on me to get you here. But
we have great conversation between me and Jad. But I wish we start our own podcast too.
You never know. I would invest in that. I would 100%. Invest in that, obviously. But shout out to Jad for telling me that this guy would be good on your podcast. Yeah. Before we finish, if you like this episode, don't forget to like, subscribe. If you would like to support this channel on Patreon, we always have the link. You can just go on Patreon and support.
100%.
Karim Ezzeddine, amazing, man.
Jad
Thanks
Mbarak,
again, Habibi.
Thank you so much. I
appreciate you, man.